Good morning and welcome to Tip-Off as we get ready for Jazz preseason game number 2, hoping to obviously get a different defensive performance than we got in game number 1. Tickets are available tonight. More importantly, guys, tickets are available for each of the first 4 games. You probably want to, I don't have all the details on it, but the Jazz are doing a nice deal where for $30 you get a free hot dog and a lower bowl seat, which is definitely a better deal than usually gets you a chance to be in the lower bowl. And for those of you who have never been that close to players in an NBA game, I will tell you that is a well worth it experience. Philadelphia on the 30th, then New Orleans, Milwaukee, and Memphis right after that. Also, the Jazz have some really nice offers with stocking stuffers and see Darren's first game and the Raptors and Skull Candy headphones and a Bees voucher, and it comes in at I don't remember the exact price, but pretty good deal. So if you're looking for things, pick up the phone, 325-2999. That's 325-2999. Thanks to the Jazz Ticket Office for sponsoring today's tip-off, obviously. Preview magazines are out. Kevin Pelton and Brandon Doolittle, Kevin Pelton, good friend of mine, will be doing a podcast here shortly with him on this, I'm sure, has put out the basketball prospectus. It's a fabulous piece of work, and he projects the Jazz at 30 and 36. I'm surprised by this. I'll be curious to talk to Kevin about this in our podcast because last year he really projected them to fall and kind of called it. He saw major offensive problems for this team last year in the way they were constructed. Statistically, it came to fruition in some ways. He has them as last year they were the 14th ranked offensive team. He has them actually at 12th, and this year he has the Jazz projected at the 27th ranked defensive team in the league, and somehow coming out of this thing at 30 and 36. So I'll be curious to talk to him in why he has them actually at a pretty decent number despite being 27th in the NBA defensively. That's the way they looked in the preseason. That's a little unnerving. You can get that at Basketball Prospectus. It's a great piece of work. I'm a huge fan of Kevin. I've known him for a long time. But it has each individual player breakdown. For Alec Burks, it says the Jazz have missed Ronnie Brewer since dealing him. Utah may have found somebody with similar athleticism but a different style in Burks, the second Jazz pair of first-round draft. Burks is an exciting athlete who reveals and excels as a slasher. He's more polished offensively, has explosive finishing at the basket. Those who rave about Burks say he's a scorer's mentality, is going to put up points in the NBA. His usage rate translates well into the league. I mean, these guys are definitely statistically based analytics, which is increasing, by the way. If you go look around the league, just the amount of teams hiring major analytic people is on the rise. Dwayne Casey gives a nice quote in this about how much that helped Dallas win the championship. So there's more about it in each of them. You probably want to know what he says about Derek Favors. And you can read about it. There's a nice breakdown on each of it. Interesting note on Favors. Outside the immediate vicinity of the basket, however, Favors shot 37%. He really can't do much other than put back rebounds and finish alley-oops. In a sense, playing with crafty veterans like Al Jefferson should help. Favors draws lots of fouls, needs to be better from the free throw line. He's pretty good defensively with a fine block rate and solid indicators when playing against fours. So, there's more to it. I just gave you a little bit on each of those. Basketball Prospectus, it's great. That's what they have. Now, John Hollinger also published his preview on Insiders. He is not as he has the Jazz at 27 and 39. So the two numbers we are getting projected by two very astute analytics are one has the Jazz at 30 and the other has the Jazz at 27. Maybe the thing that jumped out to me as much as anything is that the Warriors, who the Jazz need to finish better than top 7. The Jazz need to be the 8th ranked team in the NBA, ideally 8th, 9th, 10th. If they're top 7, the Jazz don't get the pick. They got a little problem with Monte Ellis today, but also they are picked to be the 4th worst team by John Hollinger in the Western Conference, and so it's gonna be something we watch. I think all season long is how tight the Warriors are to be able to either get that pick or not. And then there's some level where the problem with these protected picks and sometimes the problem with these trades is you don't control it. And so late in the year, the way Hollinger sees it, there's a scenario where the Jazz could be, which they won't do, could be trying to lose games to be able to get the Warriors, to make sure the Warriors slip ahead of the Jazz. Um, and the Warriors will be trying to lose games because the more they lose, they keep their pick. Basketball Prospectus also has the Warriors at 26 and 40 this year, so neither of them are very high on the Warriors in that regard. So those previews are out. Basketball Prospectus is $10, $9.95. Basketballprospectus.com. I would love it if you supported Kevin Pelton and Brandon Doolittle in their venture. It's a throwback to some extent. It's a fabulous PDF. If you have a Kindle and you're smarter than I am, you can move it on to your Kindle. I need to find a way to be able to do that, but it's very well done, and congratulations to them for yet another production. All right, topics for us today. The Jazz preseason game. Obviously, we need to see more defense. There'll be much to do about the starting lineup. I will let everyone else decide what it is. I think LaMarcus Aldridge is expected to play, so I would love to see Favors go up against Aldridge and see how he does, because he did so much of what he did the other day against Chris Johnson and Craig Smith. Sorry, and it would be nice to see whether or not he can parlay that. Really, for me, a big one tonight is Memo. He didn't look good in the scrimmage. I didn't think he looked particularly good in the preseason game, and he has been fabulous in practice. And so the question has to be, can Memo actually, in that game setting, match the speed of the game and do a bunch of things in that regard? So I think that's a huge item for the Jazz in this ball game is how Memo plays. Also, Devin Harris did not have a very good game, and the offense just got to look a little bit better, as well as obviously defensive overall. They got hit early. They didn't know how to react. We also, there's these various trends of the rookies. We're not there yet, but one of them is that they come out and they have a good game, and then they relax and they have a bad game. And we'll see that a lot. It'll be interesting to see which kids do exactly that. I wouldn't be surprised if Cantor comes out and then suddenly gets this handed to him today. Oh gosh, it's harder. It was easy the first night, and it's harder. We'll see how these things take place. That's what's going to be interesting. If it's 30 or 27 wins, regardless, that's what's going to be so interesting this year, is to watch these guys night in and night out, dealing with 3 in a row, dealing with playing off a good game, dealing with getting handed. Alec Burks, one of the questions everyone has is, what does he do when he gets punched in the mouth? So I think those things are going to be, worth watching and make the season much more exciting. Let me go to some of the tip-off questions. I hit so many of the main things. By the way, in regards to Utah and Norm Chow, just a side note on that, I've heard that Weber State talked to Aaron Roderick. He got a considerable raise out of that, and a raise that would seem to make him a offensive coordinator. So I think that's the expectation is that I would guess Aaron Roderick becomes the offensive coordinator, though I would be nothing against Aaron. I would be disappointed if this is a foregone conclusion at this point. Kyle Whittingham made an interesting point that it's a different list now that they're in the Pac-12, and I think Kyle needs to investigate that list a little bit. And it'll be interesting to see if they go back to the spread, simply 1 year out of the other system with quarterback injuries as well. Okay, I don't think I have a question from my man Z_93. Oh, I do, or 23. No, I don't. And so I can't open with him. So instead, I'll open with a question from Jamie Lund. If the Jazz decide to trade one or more of their bigs, who do you think goes and what do they want in return? Well, I really think it's going to dictate a lot on who's desperate, who needs that big very badly. Memphis is on the top of that list right now. There are other teams as well and you just have to figure out are you trying to bring back a big-time player? Is there an individual you're looking to get? Is there someone that matches? And which big? Again, we talked about this yesterday. If Paul is really willing to come off the bench, then I don't really see how that's going to that he's someone you want to move anymore. It depends on the development. There's just so many pieces that I don't think that's an answerable question, but I understand that's what most people want. From Rats Dogs, any thoughts on other Jazz rookies? Coach Sidney Lowe. Obviously Sidney's not a rookie. He's been in the league an awfully long time. This staff is interesting. They don't have a great deal of experience in the positions they have, but they have a huge amount of experience in the league, and it will be interesting to see how that parlays. Sydney's, I think, a calming influence. I think he's very helpful to Ty, having been through the wars before, both on the collegiate and the pro level as a head coach. And I think that'll be mostly his value. From Dave Fish, 17, could Harris's defensive issues be mental, such as not trusting his body to hold up? I don't know, and I think it's too early. He had a bad defensive year last year. We talked about it. I wrote about it at Locked On Jazz, and that is that he the system was different, and I don't think he was engaged quite the same way, just off his time in New Jersey. And he's got to get back to being the defensive player he was with Avery Johnson. He talks about how he can't take quite the same amount of charges as he once did, but it's got to be better. And I'm not going to go decide that after one preseason game it's not better, but that there's no question. A huge part of this year is how Devin Harris plays at the point guard in regards to win-losses, as much as all these other guys are our focus for other things. Has Wesley proved, Matthew, this comes from Trent Tuller, has Wesley proved is worth paying him? Is he worth more? Who's a better player, Wesley or CJ? Wesley's a better player than CJ. There's no question. Wesley has continued to develop. There's no question. And there was a contract that was signed just the other day. Aaron Aflalo's contract blows out Wesley Matthews' contract, making you think Wesley's is a better deal. Wesley still has huge developmental things he has to do. He's got to pass the ball every now and then. And it's going to be an interesting year for him. He's got more pressure on him, but he plays with such a great chip on his shoulder that I can't assume that he's going to have a great deal of problems in that regard. Remember to send your questions to hashtag Locke Tipoff. Remember our hashtag for each and every game tonight, and will be POR at UTA, and that's a great fun way to get it. From AUZ Grams. Based on one preseason game, could you tell if there was a vocal leader? I could not. No way, shape, or form could I. It's a fair question, but I think it's too early to tell, and I think that's where a lot of this is going to be interesting to see. And the Portland fans got mad at me on Lock Tip-Off that I don't think that their team is that good. A lot of people do. By the way, worth noting, John Hollinger has Denver as the number 2 team in the West this year, which I thought was really interesting. All right, that's your tip-off for today. Hope you're good. See you at the arena. And one other final note I was going to bring up early in this tip-off and got sidetracked. Interesting how many teams are having really, really, really bad preseason games. Phoenix had a bad one. Dallas had a bad one last night. So lots of teams are having really bad preseason games, and I think we're going to see that throughout early on, that teams just lay enormous eggs due to the short time we've got this thing going. All right, have a good day. See you at the arena.